I'm a family-orientated person. I keep to myself. And then when I have something to say, I come out and I write it in a book.
I absolutely love that.
No ghost. Yeah, I have no ghostwriters.
No ghostwriters.
No ghostwriters. And no ghostwriters. Every word that is in those books, I wrote.
That's incredible. So at Previdar, we're all about real stories. And today we've got none other than one of the realest storytellers across the land. Jackie Phamotse, how are you today?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Thank you for making the time to speak to us today. I'm really excited to get to speak to you. This is my first time meeting you, first ever interview as well. Read about you all over every single news publication you can imagine. I've read a couple of your books as well.
Yeah.
You are a renowned author. You are working in television. You've done children's books. You are one of South Africa's most recognized names as well. However, I always start every interview like this. How does it feel to be Jackie Phamotse today?
It's wild.
Wild.
There's so much going on. There's really so much going on. I am blessed.
Yeah.
I've worked extremely hard in the last 8-9 years. This year we celebrated 100,000 copies of the Bear series.
What?
Also pinning down a television production deal. So
Yeah.
it's been great. So
Sounds
a good time.
It sounds exciting. And like you said, 8-9 years in the making. You've been one of the most renowned authors of the last decade. You've gotten South Africans talking. You've gotten South Africans reading, which is a good thing. Like you're saying, 100,000 copies. How can you describe your career journey so far as an author?
Challenging.
Yeah.
To be an entrepreneur is hard in South Africa because
sure.
I am self-published. I run a publishing company that produces all my books.
Okay.
And I own all the copyright of the books. So I've got things that are happening in the background that I also run.
Amazing.
But to raise capital for writing is quite challenging when you are a startup. I refused to take offers from publishing houses because I wanted to protect the copyright of the stories.
Sure.
So I had to raise money by myself. So I worked as a radio producer for DJ Spoo back in the day when he was starting Massive Metro.
I remember those days.
I worked at Macro Polo. I did some marketing. So I've been working for a long, long time to create capital for publishing.
That is incredible. Look, I've read and heard about the challenges of being self-published globally. Yes, just in a first world country, let alone here in Mzansi with the challenges that we face. So I don't take that journey lightly.
It's definitely difficult because you need to look at things like printing costs, legal fees, marketing, copyright and trademarking, and then also editors and proofreaders, illustrators, because I've got a children's book series.
Of course,
so you need designers as well. And then also managing the entire brand of the individual and the books themselves.
I can imagine.
And then you think about contracts and that you sign with different distribution companies to get the books into stores.
Yeah.
So it's a whole business on its own. So it's quite challenging if you're not clued up about it, if you don't do your research, and if you are unable to conduct your own contracts and sift through those. But you need a legal expert who is into copyright and trademark.
Sure, I get it.
So it's challenging. But I think over the years, I have immersed myself in the publishing industry and I think I know my way around things now. It just speaks to where the books are as well, you know. Publishing 10 books is a leap.
Wow. One is already a lot of work.
One is already a lot. When The Blessed Game came out in 2017, I didn't know what I was doing. I was just stumbling, you know. But as the books grew, I learned a lot because I understood that there's the business behind it. And then there's also SARS that you need to account to. As a business owner, you know, you have to make sure that that part of the business is taken off. Hence, you will need accountants and those people. So it's a big business when you think about it.
It sounds already like a big business, and there's a lot that I'm guessing, let's say readers, onlookers, social media commentators take for granted in this process.
Yeah.
Take us through maybe the early years. Let's talk 2015 to 2017 before the first edition of Bear came out here.
Yeah, oh my God.
The process to firstly conceptualizing the stories that you wanted to tell, knowing that, okay, you want to put all of this into a novel. putting it together, the actual writing process, publishing it coming out, marketing it, dealing with backlash and commentary. Take us through those years.
Backlash. So I started writing professionally 2015.
Okay.
The Blessings Game was written from a diary. I was very depressed, very, very sad.
Okay.
I had gone through a lot of changes in my life. I speak openly about my gang rape. And obviously, I dated somebody who had lots of influence and power.
Yeah, that's right.
It was very difficult pinning down the story itself because I knew the level of hierarchy that was going to be around the story and the politicians that would try to stop the story.
That's right.
Because,
yeah,
you know,
and we saw it happen in the flesh in real time.
There was a time where I spoke about being in a safe house because there was death threats. And I still continue to get those for different reasons.
Yeah.
But I just focused on the story. I knew who I was writing the story for. I knew I had to free myself.
Yeah.
I knew I had to protect the story itself from vultures. I mean, like I said earlier on, publishers who wanted the story, but also they didn't see the value. A lot of them said the story would not be relatable to South Africans. And also because I was a new author, they didn't trust that I would sell,
Yeah.
you know, they didn't see that they would make a profit or it was worth the risk. And I had to take the burden of taking the risk to publish it. It was extremely challenging when you think about the backlash as well. There was a time where the media was just on my case.
I remember those
People
days.
on social media, on Twitter, they were like,
everywhere.
the
Trending.
story,
I think they were trending at number one for a couple of days
long,
at one stage.
long time. People didn't believe the story. They said,
true?
exactly. They
Exactly.
said the story is far-fetched. These things don't happen. I made the story up. But because I knew it was true, I focused on it. And I did what I was supposed to do in terms of making sure that it reaches the people it's supposed to get to. I mean, young people.
Yeah.
I went to universities for talks. I went to schools. I donated lots of books. And I still continue to donate. If you look at my social media, I take my activism very, very seriously.
I've seen, yeah.
Yeah, because of the impact it has and the people it touches and the people that need to hear that there is a way out when you get into social challenges.
Yeah.
Then from the Blessings Game, I mean, it took me about 2.5 years to write the Blessings Game.
Okay. This would be the second edition of the Bear series.
So there was the hockey club. So the second edition was a continuation. That was roughly about a year.
Okay.
Because I just sat on it and I was just doing that. I was just writing.
Okay. I see.
And then throughout the years, I've learned to manage time now. I know when it's writing time, I need to take a little sabbatical for about 5-6 months and just focus on writing every day and night.
Okay.
I have a psychologist on call because, you know, the things that I write about are extremely gruesome.
I can imagine.
And because most of them I have personal experience and my friends have experienced some of the things. I mean, when you read the story, it's a story about a young girl who experiences things with a group of friends.
Yeah.
So I still had friends that I could still call and say, hey, do you remember when this happened? Can you give me insights on this? And then as the series grew, I realized I had to do more research, meaning I had to speak to criminologists, I had to speak to the police, look at case files, court proceedings about human trafficking, organ sales. I had to speak to sangomas who have practiced in selling body parts and using medicine. Yeah, using body parts as medicine. So that is part of research. And you go back to what is the story supposed to tell you? Why was Bear written? Bear was written to educate and inform and bring insight to people who were not aware of what was happening in the world. So I took that data to create the story and build on the story. Yeah. So year in and year out, I'm doing research for a different story. I go as far as going to court hearings, hearing trials. I go to prisons and speak to people who are already incarcerated to see, why did you kill your husband? Why did you kill your child? Why did you sell body parts? Yeah. Why did you have these people kidnapped? People are already in prison. And I spend hours there speaking to them, speaking to serial killers and asking them, what were they thinking? So, like now I'm very, very, very fascinated by Nandipa. I need to understand what's in her mind. You know, but that's the lens that I go to produce books. I just don't randomly write.
You don't just pick it out of your head.
I just don't. I don't. If you look
yeah.
at my home office, there are books and research documents and files and reports and case studies, audio clippings of interviews and conversations that I've had with prison warders, with people who have been out of prison, to see what their experience was and why they did the things that they do. And then obviously the girls who date politicians, the girls and boys who date rich people, and what they are getting out of it, and what their social standing is, and what is the plight when you look at how we are being influenced to date a certain people, to be with a certain people, whether it be to get a contract or to have a certain lifestyle, or just because it's a social thing to do.
Okay.
But the series has opened up so many conversations. I mean, throughout lockdown, people were talking about Uktwala.
I remember,
And then it moved on to kids being mutilated. And then it moved on to the black market sales of organs and things like that. So the books have done exceptionally well in creating conversations, and that was exactly what they were designed to do.
That, you know what, I love that, because it challenges this big stereotype that South Africans don't read. You proved that, you know what, actually, if
South Africans are very gullible. They read books that trend. They don't read in general. There's a small percentage of them who read for academics, and then there's another percentage that reads for leisure. And then others just they just buy books for decorating at home.
Okay, all right. I've seen all of the above.
But we do encourage reading from a very, very young age. Hence, last year I produced a book series for children that deals with bullying, sexual assault. How do we teach children to communicate if something has happened to them? And how should they say it? And how can parents also identify a child who's been molested or raped? And how do they have conversations with children like that, in that manner? But when you look at the reading landscape of children, out of 10, 4 or 3 children can read for comprehension and understanding. Yes, meaning the other 7 can't. So
that's a scary stat.
So it is so important that writers come to the forefront and start showing Black people that reading is actually essential, and it's cool, and it's necessary, and there's a huge educational aspect of it. I mean, how do you go on to go to high school and university if you can't read or write?
Exactly.
If you look at the level of people who are articulate, it's minimal. A lot of people are not articulate. They can't even read a document for work. They scan through things. They don't read to comprehend things.
That's a good point.
So I really have been advocating for education and reading. I have donated books through the company to schools and primary schools and shelters. So it has been part of my writing journey. You know, you write and then you still are able to give some away.
You talked a little bit earlier about managing, let's say, the marketing and the brands of the books and the stories and the brand of the author yourself, right? How do you deal with it now when you've written these stories that have gotten Twitter talking and riled people up and people are sending threads? And then you announced last year you're releasing a series of children's books, and people are like, wait, what, is this the same author? Is this the same person? How did you navigate, let's say, that shift in branding, that shift in conversation, to have people understand that, look, same author, but completely different stories right now?
I think it was important to me for people to understand that I am a writer, meaning I have a general approach to writing. I can write anything. I cannot be boxed into one series. You know, I have written a crime fiction book that was based on a true story, which is called Liwa. I have written a non-fiction book, which is I Tweet What I Like, which is a social media law handbook.
I've seen it,
and it was a natural progression to tap into something that's different. Obviously, the language that is used for children is different compared to the language I use in the base series or any other book. You know, so you have to speak to teachers and see how children would prefer to read. Department of Education to look at what their syllabus is like. What are they struggling with in schools? So yes, people were a little bit shocked. But others were like, "Oh, it's a natural progression. I mean, she is a writer." You know, so. For me, it was also to take a break from writing all these heinous things that I write about. I wanted something softer, but still educational, within the same themes of conversations that I would naturally write in adult books, but for children, a bit more subtle.
Okay.
But it was fun. A lot of people received it well, especially people who have followed my work. It was great for them because they always say, Jackie, when I'm reading your books, I would like my daughter to have something to read. I'd like my son to have something to read from you, because it's not every day that you get families that read together.
For sure.
So they received it well. They were like, oh, great. Then when I'm reading my book, my daughter and son can read. Exactly. So it was almost like a family package.
Yeah.
So that was wonderful. And the books have done exceptionally well in the children's in market.
Oh, that's amazing. I need to get them for my daughter.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's what I'm getting from this. What I'm also getting from this conversation with you is that maybe people have the wrong idea of you from what I'm saying. If I was to just judge you from what I read on social media, I would think you are just out here to stir things up and, create controversy. Obviously, I had the privilege to read 2 of the Bear series, so I knew a little bit more about you from there.
Yeah.
But now I'm seeing the research that goes in. I'm seeing the approach. I'm seeing the businesswoman, the entrepreneur. I'm seeing the various aspects of your publishing journey you need to manage. Do you feel a sense of injustice with the way that the majority of the public misconstrues you? Or do you think, you know what, once you get to know me, that's it. But if you don't know me, that's also fine.
I mean, knowing me is an experience.
Okay.
I think a lot of people obviously look at me from what's trending, which is just the topics. A lot of people have not met me. I'm not an easy person to socialize with because I really don't socialize.
Okay.
I focus on my writing. But obviously public perception, you can't control it much.
Yeah.
Yes, I am known for hard-hitting conversations, which is great.
Sure.
I would rather be preferred to be known as that. I'm a stirrer. I understand that. I was like that since I was a child. I was never a child who was very meek, who sits in a corner.
Okay.
I always started conversations. Even back in school, I started the school newspaper in high school.
What? That's
I was
cool.
always a disruptor.
Yeah.
But I think what people have come to understand is that I don't write mediocre work,
Okay.
I write stories that really mean something and stories that are worth talking about. And yes, maybe public perception might be I'm a troublemaker and I'm fine with it. I'm honestly fine with it because I don't want to be a writer that just sits and writes frivolous work.
Yeah.
I want people to really take what I'm writing seriously and what I say seriously. And I think when you read the books, you get to understand why they're written and who they are for.
Okay.
And I encourage people to read them and then they will make their own judgment. But for me, I don't want people to know me. My life needs to be as private as it can.
Okay.
They must know what I do, yes, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
I care not to be a social person who is accepted by social people.
Yeah.
I'm comfortable with them not knowing who I am. If you get to experience me, then it's great. Then you'll have an opinion. Say, hey, I've met her. She's like that. She's like that.
Yeah.
But in general, I'm quite a chilled person. I'm a family-orientated person. I keep to myself. And then when I have something to say, I come out and I write it in a book.
I absolutely love that. You know what? It's a great balance that you have struck for yourself, for your life. And I can see how you protect your personal life and your personal being, and you keep the two separate. And like you said, when you're ready to come out and have a story to tell, you'll release it in a book. And just last month, in fact, I think it was 22nd of June.
Yes.
The latest edition of the Bear series came out. Curtain Call. Oh my gosh. I need to get my hands.
book in the catalog. How crazy is
in
that?
your catalog.
Yeah.
Wow. That is
I've produced 10 books in 7 years.
What a run.
That is tedious.
I can imagine.
And in some years, I've produced two books in a year. So it tells you of the work ethic. It really tells you of the discipline and the work ethic and the focus and the drive and the desire to really, really write meaningful stories that last a long, long time.
For sure.
I do believe the Bear series will truly outlive me.
Without a doubt. I mean, these covers are instantly recognizable.
Yeah, when you see the Blessed Game, the cover of the Blessed Game is just
exactly
iconic.
Exactly.
But it is a true testament of a person who truly has worked hard.
Yeah.
I take writing very seriously. I respect literature. I respect the industry that we are in. And I also respect the history that we come from. I think for a long, long time, young people's history and the way they live has not been documented. We always refer back to Mama Winnie Mandela and, Thabo Mbeki, Mandela, Steve Biko, and those people. But there must be a generation that has something to live for. That when you look at their history and you say, what happened in the 2000s? What happened in later on in the years? Who were those people? What were they fighting for? What were they writing? Who has told their stories? I want to be one of those people who's remembered to document history for young people, especially in our generation. And I think throughout the work, if you look at the catalog of work, you can see it's a body of history that has been documented, well researched, and you see it also in schools and universities where they use the books for literature, as reference points to read. That the teachers are really, really immersing themselves in the story and trying to educate young people using the stories as well. So I think I have done well for that purpose of documenting history in that way. And for young people to realize that dreams are really possible. You don't need like a big publishing company to come,
for sure,
come publish your work. You can do it. There's so many avenues now. You can publish online. You can self-publish. You can publish on Amazon or, there's a lot of people who are dreaming. And I hope, and I truly hope that I'm an example of a person who really fought their way through life and made something out of themselves. And I am proud to even just say that I was never funded by anyone. I worked for every penny, for every book. I have no ghostwriters.
No ghostwriters.
No ghostwriters. No ghostwriters. Every word that is in those books, I wrote.
That's incredible.
And it should be encouraging to somebody who's looking into going into the publishing world for themselves. Because we know how contracts are, people get swindled into contracts. You get what, 10% of your work, and then they keep your copyright and you never get your work back, or you have to buy your work back. So I have done it myself, and at this point in time, the books are number one. So it just tells you, if you just put your mind into it and you work at it and you're consistent, it will happen. It will really happen for you.
I really, really admire that. I think the self-publishing story that you've just shared has been extremely inspiring. And I know there's a lot of people who have aspirations of putting their stories into books as well. Maybe they look at the challenges, they look at the circumstances, the landscape, and they think, no, maybe I can't. And your story is proof that absolutely
you can.
They can. Yeah,
you can, absolutely can. I mean, a story that was ridiculed is now becoming a television series.
Imagine that.
How things change. How things change. So yes.
I can't wait. And just before we wrap up, without giving too much away, no spoilers. I hate spoilers for my favorite shows. No spoilers. What can you tell us a little bit about the show? What are you allowed to share? What are you allowed to reveal? When can we start looking forward to it?
So a lot of things will be revealed in late October, November. The cast. I'm part of the writing team, so I am controlling the narrative on screen. So
do you get to appear on screen a little bit?
I don't want to appear.
Not even a cameo, Nyana.
They'll see my name in the credits.
Okay, fine.
They'll see my name in the credits,
right,
but
cool.
The book has been well received in South Africa and across the board, so it was only fair to put it out on screen. It has been a demand from people for a long, long time. And I think the fan base, the people who have supported the work, will be thrilled to see their favorite characters on television.
Right.
I will also be very happy to see who they become on screen and how the story is told. But I'm very excited for that revelation. It's going to be a very busy 9 months as we complete production. But we are at the beginning stages of scripting. So there's still more time to be working until we are able to announce the full cast.
I cannot wait for that. That's going to be blockbuster television content.
Yeah, we started with the Blesses Game, so that is the first book. So
it's going to be intense.
Yeah, we'll grow it from there.
That is exciting. Jackie, I'm really excited for you.
Thank
you for making the time to speak to us today. Where can people get Curtain Call? Where can people follow you on social media when you are active, of course?
Oh my gosh. So this is Curtain Call.
Yes.
It's the last one to the base series.
The very last. Okay.
It's the very, very last one. It's the very, very last one.
Oh my
And they can get it in stores, Take a Lot, exclusive books, bargain books from Sky, in any bookshop.
Absolutely cannot wait. Jackie, all the best. Can't wait to check out the series. I'll see you at the red carpet premiere. Okay?
Yes, and you're definitely invited.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
That's a wrap. Jackie, that was dope.
Oh my God, that is so easy, guys.